So this weekend has been really, really powerful, intense weekend for me. Kind of had some alone time to really try to figure out what's the next steps for me to take in lots of different areas of this journey of mine. And just kind of like really allowing possibility to open itself up for me. And on Friday night, I went to a sound healing that I was invited to by a girlfriend that I met at a Xavier Rudd concert. We were standing alone together, and yeah, and so we have this thing where we kind of stand alone together in all these kinds of places that we go. So we did the sound healing together, but alone, and it was done by a group called One Tribe. It's a really, really beautiful group. And this time the intention was accessing and experiencing the Divine Mother, experiencing being held by that divine spirit. I've discovered that I've always had this like fantasy in my mind of being held. And I guess I kind of always projected it onto other people. Like I would have like fairy tales play in my head, you know? And I think a lot of this was kind of programmed in through the Disney movies and the, storybooks and those types of things, of this certain kind of love and this certain kind of interaction that needs to occur to feel that kind of love. And this is something that's been really unfolding for me because I picked up and I left my family, which is, most of you guys have been kind of following different members of my family and know that we're very, very close. It wasn't one of those things where it was like, I don't have a connection with my family, so I'm going to go to the other side of the world. It was like, no, because I have such a strong connection with my family, I know it's going to be okay for me to go to the other side of the world. I feel just as connected to them now. And kind of, said goodbye to some certain ways of being and some certain people outside of my family that I was kind of finding myself getting these really strong attachments to in an unhealthy way, kind of. But what I'm discovering is this fantasy of being held is what makes me feel alone. And this is something I've known and something that I've experienced many times of being held by that divine spirit, but really by the self. Like really not needing anything outside of the self to feel that unconditional, infinite, ever-flowing love. And I guess that's really what I'm making this video for. I didn't even realize. I was going to talk about the North Dakota pipeline, and I still want to do that. But yeah, so really, now that I'm here on the other side of the world, and I am, alone in a lot of ways, I'm relearning and unfolding this feeling of really being held by the self and being fulfilled and complete and whole with this easily accessible love that is always available to us. We just have to acknowledge it. It's not even that we have to allow it in. It's always there. We just have to see it. It's almost like, there's a fine line, but not really, between everything and nothing. It's kind of the same. It's one and the same. So it's like, there's this simple thought, and in a lot of ways of being, there's this kind of truth that really nothing means anything at all. And that's so true. And it's so easy to get lost in that because it's like, wait, what? Nothing means anything. But in that is everything, because you see that, oh, that means I get to put meaning to every little thing that happens in my life. I get to decide and choose what that's going to mean for me. If I was just having this conversation with somebody, and they were talking about their kind of like their divine path, or their reason for being here. And really what I believe for me to be true is that we decide our meaning for being here. We decide our purpose. We decide our prophecies. And we let them unfold. It's like as soon as I'm certain that I'm supposed to do something, everything that happens in my life is a synchronicity regarding that thing that I feel like I'm supposed to do. But if I were to decide that I'm supposed to do something totally different, and really decide, like, it's truth for me that I'm supposed to do this thing, rather than it being something that I'm second guessing or not sure about, because when that occurs, then there's kind of like chaos that happens, because the chaos is a reflection of your mind, of your heart, of your spirit that's not sure what the fuck you're doing. And so, but when you're really, really sure about something, like really, even if your mind's going about it, but there's just something there that you're really sure of, then everything that occurs in your life will synchronize with that, as long as you see it and acknowledge it. And so that's what I'm experiencing now with this whole being held thing. I feel like I kind of, and I did this purposely because I really do feel like this is something, and I might have done it. I might have had I had a lot of other conscious reasons of kind of going on this lonesome adventure or whatever, but I think one of the main reasons that's unfolding for me is to really, really stand in that all the time, because I kind of come in and out of it, of that. There's all different ways there's all different like levels of being alone, and a lot of them I do really well with. I do really, really well alone. I like being alone in a lot of ways, and then there's other parts. There's other levels of it, and I'm kind of like letting that all unfold and seeing that. And but yeah, I think that what I'm really, really getting is that I separated myself from like the tangible physical embodiment of being held, like by my family and by the others that I kind of subconsciously started depending on for that. And so yeah, and I think that's something that I kind of stepped out of, so that I can really experience being held by that divine love. And I relate it to being held by my family, and I relate it to being held by my friends and those people that I know have love for me, and that I have love for them. And I can relate it to that because it's one and the same. It's love all the same. But at the same time, let go of that need to be physically held, because what I'm realizing is that we're really not our body. Like, we're so much more than our body. I mean, obviously, but in that sense, it can get kind of hard, because it's just the same as using like sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but it's just the same as using deities, the names of deities, or using the word God, or using objects that we kind of have, like crystals, or whatever. It's something, because everything is so complex and like so in depth, because it's infinite, and it's like so hard for our minds to comprehend infinity. That we need these things, or we think that we need these things, or we use these things as tools to access those parts of our spirit, to access the divine feminine through Shakti, or to access that divine love through, praying to God, or you know, like using a crystal to access a certain feeling that will bring a certain manifestation. It's like something tangible that we can focus on, that gives us, like, that roots us down in that. And I think, this whole being held thing kind of goes along with that, if that makes sense. And really, really learning and discovering, relearning, unlearning, discovering and unfolding that I am held and you are held in every moment of every single day. You just have to acknowledge it. And I'm like really, really getting that. Like as I'm driving in my car or whatever, I kind of think about and acknowledge letting go of my safe space. My family and where I was just my safe, comfortable space. And stepping out of that, I kind of threw myself into a storm. And that's what we're here for. We're here to unlock those deepest parts of ourselves that we resist so that we can transform them and teach them to others, and walk gracefully into this new way of being that's coming, and we can do it so that when we get there, we're strong and we're grounded and we're rooted and we know who we are and we know what we want. Really, I threw myself in every situation in coming here. I threw myself into my worst fears and into my storms, and really coming from a place now of being able to observe that and still have fear, but actually being able to observe the fear in itself and stand and walk anyway, is really an opportunity that I'm so, so grateful for, because I'm getting to see things about myself, just the same as being in a comfortable place, because certain things occur in that also call you to be something greater, and even in situations that are so comfortable, because people start to unfold, especially in family situations. I think I grow more in a lot of ways in the midst of my family than I do in anywhere else, with anyone else, because there is that comfortability to really like allow that that shadow to come out and those types of things. And now this is just a whole nother experience for me, and just a whole nother it's like a whole nother training a whole nother shadow training, revealing more shadows of mine. I just wanted to acknowledge it because I know that it's something that a lot of people have, this fantasy and this voice of being held by something. It's kind of like being single, like being a single woman and you're walking down the street, and like every kind of like, almost like if a man comes up to you and you're like kind of like deciding, like how do I feel about this person? Do I feel like that way about him, or should I just be talking to him as a friend? How do I let him know that I'm not really like interested? Or what if this is like the love of my life, and blah 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 blah. And like those kinds of conversations happen in our head all the time, because we're constantly looking for something outside of ourselves to hold us, to let us know that love exists. And I feel like our whole journey is about discovering that love exists all the time. It's totally, completely infinite. And we are held by something beyond our body, by something beyond the physical. And it starts with, it's within, I don't even know how to say, but it's you. You have the ability to be completely fulfilled and whole and complete and full of love, so that when somebody does come into your space, who is holding that space of like of that tangible love, that tangible holding, that is not fulfilling you, but it's overflowing you. It's almost like your cup is overflowing now, because you've already been walking in a space of being totally, completely fulfilled with who you are and what you are, and with the divine energy that's here. And so that's what's happening with me, is like really getting that, really getting that fulfillment in being alone and knowing that I'm not alone at all. And yeah, so cool. Aho.